Welcome back to OpenLine, talking all about affordable housing in Nashville. We have with us Phil Mance, chair of NOAA's Affordable Housing Task Force, Dr. Paulette Coleman and Danielle Fletcher, both with the task force. Dr. Coleman, past chair of the task force. And we have some more calls. So let's just go back to the phones here. Let's go to Butch. Hello, Butch.
Yes, how you doing?
Doing great. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. What I don't understand, you got the same politicians, the mayor's office, Carl Dean administration, and Rowdy administration. They haven't done nothing affordable care housing because they keep putting everything downtown. They keep giving this tax increment to these rich billionaires, and everybody don't want to live downtown. And I take issue with the staff says that. What I really want to know is every time the Tennessee mention a hot place in town, then that's when the rich realtors and everything go and put up stuff and run the people out. And this is not just affecting adults. This is affecting the children, the schools, and gentrification also. It's affecting the whole neighborhood setting. People home roots in those neighborhoods, grew up in those neighborhoods. Now they can't live there. I've been to many churches lately. They don't have the people they had before. They're grounded to church because they had to move and get out of there. Even the churches just sold land in order to survive. I don't understand why something could have been done a long time ago. It still should be done to help the middle class and undeserved people in the neighborhood. And this is atrocious. I don't understand why nothing should have been done earlier. And I thank you for helping me understand this even more, because I'm about to be evicted because the landlords want more money. When I first moved in 2008, there was no problem. Now he can get more money, and he tells me all the time, I'm finna sell, you got to get out. So I don't understand how this is happening. This is a nightmare.
What part of town do you live in?
I live in the hot East Nashville area. Every time the newspaper mentions that, you might as well get your suitcase ready because you're going to go.
All right, Butch.
Downtown.
All right, thank you for your call. All right, so what Butch is saying, and he's clearly frustrated, he feels like there's been no action. He doesn't feel like past mayors have done enough. There's just not any action. What do you say? What do you say to that? To somebody who's frustrated like that?
I think to a certain extent, we have prioritized development for the sake of visitors, tourists, etc. And that has a place, but we should, the possibility existed to, along with that, to be providing more opportunities and to be cognizant of the consequences of that development. There's a downside to the development that I think we haven't paid that much attention to, and now we're being forced to. I think there's some elements of what needs to happen. We need to have a plan. We need to have dedicated and recurring funding for affordable housing. We need an office that, with civil servants, that doesn't depend upon the orientation or the specifics or the policies of a particular mayor, and we need to make it a priority, just as we have done tourism, sports, etc.
You were on the Nashville Tax Increment Financing Study and Formulating Committee, which I did not say properly at the top of the show, but I think people understand why. There's a lot to put in there. But you were studying tax increment financing and its impact. Butch mentioned, he mentioned tax increment financing. That's basically incentives. It's one of the major incentives. Do you feel like, are we beginning to turn back in a different direction there? I mean, what insights did you gain from being on that committee?
One of the things that was very eye-opening is that there were limitations as to how tax increment financing could be used for affordable housing. It could be used for infrastructure, it could be used for parking garages, and even though the Purcell administration did use it for some of those things, it could not be used for affordable housing per se. However, the Industrial Development Board does have more flexibility in terms of using tax increment financing, and they've only done one project. So there's some recommendations and some legislation that is before council to help work out some of these problems. We also found out, or at least I found out, and it was eye-opening to me, is that even though there had been a good number of projects that were financed, it was not as enormous as I thought it was. When I looked at the numbers, they were not, but the optics aren't very good. If that's all you see tax increment financing used for are downtown areas. So I think the report is out. The committee was very, very transparent. There are some improvements that can be made, but the problem is bigger than tax increment financing.
Right. And Danielle, when you hear what he had to say about, you know, his situation, he's saying he has to move out. His landlord had been threatening it for a while, and now is saying he can get more money. He does live in an area that's just very popular. What do you recommend or say?
I would say, just like I got involved with NOAA and can be a voice for affordable housing and speak to the council when there are issues and there's legislation that comes up that addresses it, that to be involved in that, to make sure you're listening, to see what we're doing and how you can put your voice out and advocate for any type of legislation that's going on that deals with affordable housing.
And like you said, show up for the forum, just be somebody that's engaged and be part of those that are counted, is concerned about this topic.
And the only other thing I would say, I agree with everything that has been said, is that we have to hold our elected officials more accountable, because they have a great deal of, if a zoning variance or any kind of variance is needed to do some of these things that don't promote affordable housing, the council person has a lot of possibilities of talking about it, negotiating, voting for or against it, and using that power, leveraging that so that at least it's on the table for discussion.
Okay. All right, let's go to Reverend Fuzz. Reverend Fuzz, hello.
Hey, Dan, thank you. Listen, I want to ask a few questions about housing in Nashville. One of the great things to hear, everybody says that you need 30,000 housing units. That's how many shortage. That's the shortage in Nashville, is 30,000. Well, you know, I've developed like interpersonal relationships with probably at least 7 or 8 so-called developers, and these are the top bigger developers in town. And we talk a lot. And one of them questioned me to say, if you need 30,000 units, we're that short, where are these people? It's just a question he threw up. And something really important about housing, we're building some housing in North Nashville like Trinity Lane, but as long as we're building rental properties, we are going to keep people in poverty. Is there a way that our government, the city, the public treasury, can allocate the funding or the financing for people to become owners of homes? The banks won't finance them, but why can't our public treasury create a fund that finance people to become owners of their homes? And, you know, I can go on and on, but those are just a couple of questions I've always pondered. Let's do away with rental. The number one question I get each week is, can you help me find somewhere to live? The last week, 2 people moved. I have a precious friend of mine had to move to Bowling Green. Another lady moved to Atlanta. She's paying $800 for what she would pay $1,500 here in Nashville. And yes, there's a problem, but as long as people are renting, we keep them in poverty, and only the developer makes money. How can our city enable people to finance some kind of residence, whether it's 250 square feet or 1,000 square feet?
All right, thank you, Reverend. What do you think? As chair of the committee, I turn. What do you think?
Now I get to earn my money, huh?
Yes.
So to speak. Well, he talked about what the city can do to help make things happen. So there's about 1,000 lots that has gone delinquent. I think roughly that. Mike, is that? 2,000, but a lot of delinquent units. So there's a way to get those land out into the system so people can build on it. And we've got.
And when you say gone delinquent, you mean they haven't paid property taxes, right? And they've been repossessed by the city, essentially. Is that what you mean?
Or whatever. They've come up. I don't know the exact details on that, but there's land. There's also land that the city owns,
right,
to make available to get that supply out into the public domain so people could build on it. So that, I mean, that's sort of one specific thing that could go on. He talked about ownership and so not to get into sort of tax policy here, but the reality is the wealth in this city is reflected in those rising land prices, right? And so we have a state policy that says property tax has to keep that sort of flat. You can't raise the amount. Our city leaders, and Noah twice sent a message all the thing that you ought to adjust the property tax rate to get revenue into the city to pay for a number of things, teacher salaries, public safety officer salaries. So there's multiple things of policy we could do to help address that situation. He's absolutely right. If you are not an owner in this economy, I mean, the property values in Davidson County went up 37%, whatever, for 4 years in the last reassessment. That's 7.5% every year. If your salary didn't go up 7.5%, then you can't keep up if you're renting. So, you know, there was a Nashville flood here, right? And everyone responded. We've got a Nashville flood of agony going on that's reflected in the phone calls. So let's respond. Let's move. So.
All right, we have to take a break. Then we'll come back, continue the discussion. Hold on the line, take a break. Be back right after this.